Hello, beautiful strangers. If you found yourself here, it likely means you've at least a passing interest in my favourite hobby, tea. And if not that, then it means you're super bored with nothing to do, or you fell asleep watching something else, and the algorithm decided to be a dear and send you my way. In any case, I appreciate the attention. But for those of you who are here because you have at least a passing interest in tea, let me posit you a question. What even is it? Because if you're anything like basically everyone, including me, for years, you've probably got a shelf full of boxes that all say tea, and half of them are peppermint, chamomile, sleepy time blends with cartoon bears in nightcaps. And yeah, I've bought the Detox Lemon Ginger Cleanse Metabolism Support box too. No judgment. But here's what kicked off my tea obsession. Most of what we call tea isn't technically tea at all. So listen up, and I promise by the end of this episode you'll be the most interesting person standing in front of the tea aisle. Which of course is what everyone strives to be in this life, surely, right? Welcome to the channel, and to episode 1 of our tea series. What is tea, really? So take a dainty little sip of whatever's in your cup right now. No gatekeeping. Not yet, anyway. And let's start at the beginning. Here's the thing almost nobody tells you up front. All real tea comes from one plant, Camellia sinensis. If it's not from that plant, botanically speaking, it's not tea, it's something else. That's it. That's all there is to tea. Thank you for watching this series, and I hope you all have a great life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, how can green tea and black tea and that earthy pu'er cake thing all come from the same plant? They taste nothing alike. Well, the magic is in what happens after the leaf is picked. How it's withered, heated, rolled, oxidized, aged. Think of it like grapes and wine styles. Same fruit, wildly different outcomes. There are basically 6 main tea types you'll hear about. Of course, this will vary person to person or by region, but at least where I'm at, these are what you'll find in 99% of proper shops. White tea is baby leaves and buds, handled super gently, usually just withered and dried. Light, soft, a little sweet. This is generally the mildest tea you'll drink, at least as far as true teas are concerned. Yellow tea is kind of like green tea's shy cousin who hung out in a humidity blanket a little longer. Mild, mellow, rare. You don't see it often outside specialty shops. Green tea gets heated right away to stop oxidation. That's what keeps the colour and that fresh, grassy, sometimes seaweedy taste you get, especially in the Japanese styles. Oolong is the middle path, partially oxidised. Depending on where it lands on the spectrum, you can get floral high notes, buttery texture, roasted nuttiness, or some combination of the three. Black tea is fully oxidised, which deepens the flavour. Bold, malty, brisk. This is your breakfast tea, your builder's brew, your add milk and let's go classic. And finally, there's pu'er and other dark or fermented teas. These are processed, then intentionally aged with microbial help. The best way I can analogize these are earthy, damp forest floor or old book leather with a charry tang, that sort of thing. Some are young and bright, some age like cheese or wine. Same plant, 6 different personalities. So, now that we've established that all tea comes from the same plant, and no, I'm not joking, there's not a secret second tea bush that makes peppermint Earl Grey with sprinkles. It's time we talk about everything else people mistake for tea. Chamomile, peppermint, hibiscus, rooibos, the entire yoga in a mug aisle. None of these are technically tea. I know, scandalous. They're called tisanes, which is a fancy word for infusions made from stuff that isn't tea but you steep it anyway. They're made from herbs, flowers, bark, roots, dried fruit, basically any of that sort of stuff. Do they count as tea? Botanically, no. I already told you that. Culturally? Sort of. Emotionally? Listen, if it gets you through a cold night and doesn't taste like boiled socks, I'm not here to fight you. That said, if you want to sound clever at your next brunch, feel free to casually mention that technically chamomile is a tisane and not a tea. And then change the subject before someone accuses you of being a snob. Anyway, let's zoom out for a moment. Tea, the real kind, has a ridiculously long history. I don't want to get too much into it right now because that's the sort of topic I could do a whole other series on, and maybe someday I will. But for now, I'll just give you the overview because it is important. Legend has it that it was discovered in China by Emperor Shen Nong when a leaf blew into his boiling water. Personally, I don't think this story holds any water. Sorry. From there, tea spread like, well, a good rumour. Japan, Tibet, Persia, the Middle East. Eventually, Europe got involved, which is where things started to get properly dramatic. By the 1600s, the British were absolutely off their rockers for tea. There were trade wars, actual wars, tea taxes, revolutions. There's an entire podcast in just that. But for now, all you need to know is this. Tea became big business and the British made sure it got planted absolutely everywhere they could stick a shovel. India, Sri Lanka, Kenya, Vietnam. And each place developed its own tea culture. In Japan, tea became a whole ceremony. Precise movements, carefully whisked matcha, and a level of quiet reverence that makes you feel like your entire soul is being politely asked to calm down. In Morocco, they serve green tea with mint and so much sugar you'll vibrate through dimensions. In Tibet, it's churned with butter and salt, which doesn't sound great, but don't knock it till you try it. Russia brews it extra strong and waters it down from a separate pot. And in Taiwan, they steep oolong leaves 4 or 5 times in a row like they're unlocking hidden tea levels. I once sat in a tea house there, and the tea master brewed the same oolong 5 times, each steep just 20 seconds. Every single cup tasted different. I asked why, and she just smiled and said, "Is how tea speaks." And I think some variation of that needs to be printed on a tote bag. Now, you might be wondering, why does any of this matter? I mean, if it tastes nice and fits in a mug, who cares what it's called? Well, I care. And if you're still watching, I'm guessing you might too. Knowing what kind of tea you're drinking helps you brew it properly. And brewing it properly means it'll taste better. And if you're not trying to make your tea taste better, what are you even doing? And yeah, I know I'm making it sound like it's a sacred ritual, but it kind of is. Good tea asks you to slow down, to pay attention, to stand there, watching your kettle, bored out of your skull, wondering where you set your phone. And that's fine because everybody needs to slow down sometimes. So next time someone says, "What's your favourite tea?" you can raise one eyebrow and say, "Do you mean real tea or herbal?" And then sip dramatically and walk away. They'll most likely have no clue what's going on and think you're a crazy person, but that's okay. Because maybe 1 person out of 100 will be interested enough to look up what the crazy person said. And just like that, there's 1 more person who's able to appreciate it just a little bit more. And if you don't know your favourite yet, no pressure. That's literally the point of this series. Maybe you're an oolong girly like me. Maybe you've been a pu'er goth all along and didn't know it. Maybe you just want something warm that makes your insides feel like they've been hugged by a linen blanket. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe, or don't, it's your life, I'm not here to pressure you. But if you do want to keep learning about tea with someone who drinks way too much of it and has strong opinions about mug shapes, you're in the right place. Cheers for sticking around. Hope to see you next time. And remember, steep, sip, stay curious,